is going to sound like I'm talking out of my ass.
Then please try to enunciate.
No, it's a figure. Never mind.
Good evening. You're tuned into the podcast where we dive into the universe of the Orville. Guys, are you pumped? You ready?
I'm ready for a command performance, Jody.
Ready for a command performance. Well, that's what you're going to get today, Dave. Today, we're taking a closer look at the episode that tested the mettle of our crew, command performance. This is the second episode of the first season where routine distress call turns into an unexpected leadership trial for Alara, with Ed and Kelly mysteriously vanishing during a visit to a derelict ship. It's up to Alara to command the Orville and navigate through the stars. Are we ready? Are we good?
Yeah, like
we're ready. How do we feel? How do we feel about this episode, guys?
Good.
Good. What's good about it, Dave?
That we're all here, Jody.
That we're all here. Okay, well, I guess that's important.
Yeah. It's got a Kermit the Frog reference.
A couple of them, actually. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think that the zoo metaphor, or not even a metaphor, it's just it is a zoo. But I guess allegory to our practices on Earth, is interesting and thought provoking, and there's a lot of good stuff in this episode. And we're talking
reminds me a lot of the Wesley Takes Command episode, the Catan, or the what's her name? Catan, right?
Alara?
Alara, sorry.
Yeah, Catan's her last name though, so you're kind of right.
She takes command and has to have the doctor guide her through that experience. It's like when Wesley had his team.
Yeah.
Oh, that episode. Yeah.
Yeah. I said command, I think. He never took
command of a science team.
Of a science team.
Yeah, the science team. Yeah. So. Yeah. All right. Well, shall we just go right into it, gentlemen?
Yeah, let's jump in.
All right, let's do her. All right. So, good news. Oh, hold on. This is not the screenshot it's supposed to be. What happened here, guys? Again, I'm screwing things up.
I'll have to put you on report, Jody.
I think we are going to have to put me on report. Think of it. What happened here? Why don't I have all my screenshots? Something went wrong, gentlemen.
Well, let you look into that. We'll talk away.
All right, you talk away while I look into that.
Yeah, I thought this episode was pretty good for a second outing. I think that the stuff with Bortus on the egg is pretty funny. Not as funny as it was the first time, but I thought
this is not conducive to brooding.
Yes, I forgot about that line. But there's that reveal when she walks in on him and he's completely naked on that egg. You're just like, oh my gosh.
Well, the worst thing about it is you're like, you can see the absolute embarrassment on her face. Like she did a really good job with it. So it's like, I thought that was pretty cool.
I'd say my only I'm sure we'll get to this point, but it comes at the end. My only sort of negative on this episode was that it was a little too easy for them to get Ed and Kelly back, and get out.
Yeah, I think it had the same problem that a lot of Enterprise episodes had, where it kind of got to the peak a little too late in the story. So then they had to kind of the 5 minutes and everything's done and wrapped up. Like
for having been banned and said, don't go there, it's going to cause all this trouble. It was pretty easy.
Yeah, they literally walked in and and they negotiated and then got a good trade.
They gave them reality TV. They gave them which
I love
50 Days Fiance and stuff that Kevin watches. And that if only Kevin was the ambassador to these people, then there would be no issues. He told them all about it.
Well, what can you do? It looks like I missed part of the episode for some strange reason. So I'm going to do clips for the beginning, just with the thing. And then we'll switch over to the screenshots after that, I guess. So bear with me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to get queued up here.
Robert Duncan McNeil directed this episode.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well, that shows some things, I guess.
Seth MacFarlane wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these 12 episodes in the first season.
Yeah, he
Wow.
writes most in the first season, and then I don't think
Then he
did
gets
a lot
bored
already.
and moves on to the next project.
Yeah, he's like,
Right.
oh, I got other things to do, guys. What can you do? So anyway,
I started it. Tag, guys. I'm out.
it's like I got this thing moving.
I made the show. What do you want? I'm the captain.
Like at this point, I think I've done everything I need to do.
Well, I mean, it's sort of a even when you get into the third episode, was it third season or second season? Whenever he starts, he's not in it as much either. It just he disappears a little bit. He plays a Cisco,
He does the Cisco.
Yeah, he does. All right, guys, I think we're queued up enough here. Let me just make sure subtitles are turned off. And sorry about this, guys. All right, so here we go. Let's get that going. And here we go. All right. So anyway, we first start off, obviously we start off with Mercer. Oh, what happened there?
You probably just have to be selected on the
I'm stupid. Okay, there you go. Anyway. Oops. Let's just flip over a bit here. So anyway, he basically at this point we see, well, I can't play too much of the video.
No.
But basically Bortus comes in.
You just hit the right arrow and it will like sort of skip
kind of
ahead
jumps
by
over a bit.
5 or 10 seconds.
All right. But basically Bortus comes in and he says, I have to have leave of absence. Like, and he's like, well, what do you need leave of absence for? And he's like, I laid an egg. But he says it in the Bortus way, which is everything is that he says is gold, in my opinion. It's just the delivery or the lack of, I think, is what makes it just great.
But deadpan is always funny.
The deadpan is good, yeah. But Bortus also asks him about Kermit on his desk. And he basically says, Seth says, well, it's one of the leaders that I admire.
Yes.
Which I thought was kind of a funny nod. And we do see a lot of Kermit. We see Kermit throughout the series. Not as much in the third season, but in the first two we do. So they must have paid for a certain amount, I guess.
he doesn't explain to Bortus though that Kermit is a fictional character. Or a puppet for that.
No,
he
says, "Oh, it's an amphibious species from my planet."
He's like, "Do you know this amphibian?" Or whatever.
Yes, yeah. And Bortus gives him like yeah, exactly. Which I thought was cute.
But did you think it was weird that the captain didn't know about like the eggs? You kind of know about your crew and what's possible.
Well, you got to remember, like they've only been out for a little while. Like he still really doesn't know Bortus yet. Like this is only the second episode in. So
I don't know. I think it's a pretty big part of
it's something he probably should know. Yeah, I agree. Especially when I'm sure the doctor wasn't surprised by that, but Mercer seems to be pretty surprised.
Although, like, we do find out in the later episodes that like the Mocklins were they're sort of like in the Union, but they're kind of
they're kind of like the gray area of the Union.
They're a little bit more independent, it seems like, and that increases as these cultural rifts will grow between the Mocklins and the other Union worlds over Bortus's kid that will come in the later episodes. But yeah, the Mocklins are sort of a
next week's actually.
Yeah, that's coming right.
It's literally right after this episode. Yeah,
but yeah, the Mocklins and the Salayans, which is Alara's people, and I guess also we'll find of course the what do you call them, the Kalon. It's kind of an interesting group here with a crew here on the Orville being like they're all kind of unique, or a few of the crew are like the only one of their kind in the service.
Yeah.
Or one of the few, like in Alara's case. So, but I think that Bortus is the only Mocklin in all of the
you get that impression anyway. Yeah, I don't think even throughout the series, I don't think we see another Mocklin in command or like even
in uniform. I don't think that.
I
think he's like the only one. I think, and of course, Isaac's the only Kalon as well.
Yeah, but they're not.
They should really try to get some more species in to fly ships. They've got 3,000 of them to man. They're giving them to drunks and like, come on,
washed out drunk commanders. Yeah,
they have a recruitment problem, it seems. But
yeah, it does seem like there is some sort of problem there. But basically, he says, I need 21 days because that's the gestation period of the thing. And Mercer's like, well, you take as long as you need, blah blah blah. He's being very accommodating, which I guess in the future we can be more accommodating. So that'd be nice. And then of course he leaves. And then I think where are we now?
We're in the
intro here. Hold on. Oh, pretty much there now. I can't remember what this conversation was, but I think it was along the lines of, I think this has to do with Bortus for a second or two.
They're gossiping a little bit about Bortus to start off.
Yeah.
You know, what is it like to lay an egg, and where does it come out of their butt? You know, and he's like,
Yeah.
that was
I
the
didn't
thing.
ask. I didn't
I did
ask.
ask.
That would be
It's
the
like, you
first thing I
definitely
would
ask that. That's definitely something you would ask.
But that's what I like about this show, is that little banter that happens every so
Mhm.
often, like especially between these two. These two banter constantly throughout the series, which is great until he gets promoted in the next season. Actually, I don't even think it's fully the whole season.
Yeah, but
I
even
think
after
it's
that, to
they still
like,
banter.
not
and
there
stuff.
at the front of the at the helm, but like
But the
just
bridge
them.
is much more relaxed than in, say, a Starfleet bridge. When it
For
comes to
sure.
this stuff. Plus,
Like-
they allow drinks, so that's
Well,
that's good too.
Ed Mercer is not Captain Picard, I would say. You know, he's
Very
definitely-
much so. Yes, yeah, I agree.
Right.
But basically, I guess they receive a distress call.
You get the distress call pretty much.
Yeah, we
right
get the
after that.
distress call at this point. And then this is where we see this particular person. He says he's on a ship. He's having a hard time with communications. He can't see them very well. Blah blah blah. But he goes, oh well, we need supplies. Blah 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 blah. And they're like, okay, well, we'll lend a hand, no problem. Send me over a list, kind of thing. And then he says something along the lines of, after that, he's like, oh, and by the way, your parents are here, or something like that.
What a coincidence!
What a coincidence! Yeah. So that is his parents, played by Jeffrey
Tambor.
Tambor, and I can't remember her name, but
What's he from? Jeffrey Tambor. I recognize him.
Everything.
Yeah, he's been in
That's
a ton of
helpful.
stuff. Arrested Development, he was in.
Yeah, he played the
Rewatch.
dad there.
He
Here, I'll
played the
give-
dad.
Larry Sanders Show.
Yeah, he was in
I
that
don't watch
a
a lot
lot.
of that either. That's probably why I don't know him so much. Okay.
Well, you probably have watched something with him in it, I'm sure.
He's in the Grinch.
Yes,
Yes.
he was
Another
the
thing I
mayor
don't
of
like.
Orange, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, he's like the new Jason Segel. I never had seen Jason Segel in anything until the Muppets, and I was like, "What is this guy in?" And they're like, "Well, he's in this How You Met Your Mother." I was like, "I never watched it." And then he's in this other thing, like 10 Things I Hate About You. Never watched it. It was like everything that Jason Segel had ever done, I had never seen before.
He was in Paul.
Didn't see it. So
You didn't see Paul?
no.
Oh,
So I
I'm
don't
actually
know.
surprised you didn't see Paul.
Maybe I just avoid certain actors, but instinctually and not know it.
maybe.
Like maybe he's one of them.
So anyway, an awkward conversation comes up about his rectal health.
Sesame seeds get stuck.
Yeah,
Colon.
and
Get your colon checked.
yeah, and his dad's like, I got a sesame seed, then I ended up getting some inflammation because it got stuck in the folds and stuff, and all this. And he's going all on this, and obviously Ed is super.
You know who that woman is actually? That's the plays the mother of Charlie Sheen on
Yes, Two and a Half Men.
2.5 Men. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's been in a ton of stuff though. I also think she does voice work as well on animated shows.
But these two never came back, right? Like,
think so.
I think we do see them again.
oh yeah.
I think we see them again, but it's like, second season or something like that. But I could be wrong. I don't know. But I'm kind of rewatching this again, so it's that's why we're having this, right?
Sure.
So
It's been 7 years since I watched this episode as well. But then the whole thing with Kelly and the fact that they're divorced now, and hi Kelly, and she called her Mrs. Mercer, which I thought was
Mrs.
pretty
Mercer,
formal.
yeah.
But I guess
Well,
He's like, oh, it's great that you're such friends, even after that, infidelity.
The infidelity.
Well, to her credit, it was Rob Lowe.
yeah.
Right. I'm not sure I'd say no to Rob Lowe, quite honestly. But anyway, but yeah, she's it turns into a very awkward situation, and then they're like, oh, and there's what's his name?
Malloy.
Malloy, yeah. Well, they call him by his first name, but Gordon, that's right. So they're like, oh, it's Gordon, and he's like, hello, Mrs. Mercer, and then she's like, oh, who is that? And Ed's like, that was Gordon. It's that awkward conversation that we all have with our parents once in a while. Where
But
it's
this
like,
this is all a
they're
ruse.
not actually listening.
This is all a ruse. This is all a fake. It's a
does
fake.
It does end up
It is
being a ruse, but we're not there yet, Dave. You've already given away part of it. Anyway, Mercer's
He was
like,
just
you know
so
what?
excited for the sound effect he couldn't contain himself.
Yeah, he wants that sound effect. But I'm surprised he even has sound effects for this. But then on the other hand, I'm surprised he wouldn't have sound effects, so that makes sense. But anyway, so yeah, they decided that Ed decides that this conversation is just getting so awkward that he's going to come down to the ship and talk to them because he just doesn't want the bridge crew to like listen to all this crap anymore. So at that point, Kelly goes with them, and they basically say, Alara, you're in charge. You're the next one up. And she's like, I've never been in command. This is a problem. And she's like,
This
you
does
got
seem
this.
she doesn't seem like the logical choice to be the next in command after Bortus. It seems like that would even Malloy would be even more.
Well, she's head of security though, so
she's the third officer.
She's the third officer, so it would kind of make sense.
What about the lieutenant commander in engineering?
Oh, we don't care about him.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
That guy comes in later, though.
Engineers aren't in the rotation unless it's Scotty.
Yeah,
unless it's Scotty or Jordy. Okay,
Scotty or Jordy. Yeah, nobody else. And sometimes Malcolm. No, not Malcolm.
Tucker. Trip commanded the ship all the time, but
yeah, he was constantly running around. But he was also.
What would the captain do? What would the captain do?
If T'Pol's not there, but anyway, that's a whole other thing. We already covered that show, I think. Come to think of it. Yeah, that's true.
Big guest stars. I guess these are among them.
Yeah, there's actually some even bigger ones later on. Not that Jeffrey isn't big, but still. Anyway, she takes the seat reluctantly, but she takes the seat. Obviously has the nerves going on. And actually, this is, I think, where I can jump into my screenshots. So give me 1 second here, guys. Let's kill this. It'll just make things easier. Sorry about that. Man, what a day, guys. What a day. All right. Oops.
Yeah, Lamar does.
Dave taught me how to do this. All right, we're good. All right, so let's put this back in. All right, so now they're having a conversation in the shuttle on their way over to the derelict ship. Basically,
about his mother.
Yeah, about his mother, and she's they're still kind of bantering, not as much as they were in the first episode, but they still kind of still say some shit to each other, which I think is pretty funny. And of course, I haven't clicked on this yet, so there we go. All right. Can I get this mouse out of the way? All right. But basically, I can't remember this conversation, guys. If anybody can.
It was about whether his mother is mad at her, and he's like, well, she was mad at you for a while. She hated you for a while.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And
she once called you a bitch 17 times in one conversation.
In one sitting. Yeah. The table next to us was a little disturbed. That was my favorite part. And so Kelly then goes and makes the pot brownie, like sort of to deal with this.
She's like, well, I'm gonna use the replicator.
But it
I
seems like
love that she does that, but then gets on him for having a beer later.
Hold on.
Yeah, they might just it seems like they're out of order for you for some reason.
They are out of order right now, yeah. So let's just throw that in here. Let's go, and we're back. And this is about where we were. Okay. Yeah, because I totally remember taking a picture of the pot brownie. But anyway, so she uses the replicator for the pot brownie, and she's like, puts it in her pocket. She's like, I'll have that later. So
I thought that was gonna. I didn't remember the episode as well, but I thought that the edible was going to somehow come into the story, it
really doesn't.
It doesn't. No,
they mention it one other time later on, which is like, maybe I'll dig into that pot brownie or whatever.
She just puts that in her pocket. It's not in plastic or anything. Like
she just it's on a napkin. She just kind of wraps the napkin around and throws it in.
Like
she is
eat that right away.
Yeah, what's the problem? It's an edible. It's going to take you at least 30 minutes for it to kick in anyway.
But she wasn't specific what she made, but I don't know. I think the whole gag of the episode is just to prove to us that they could replicate cannabis edibles in the future. Isn't this
I think personally is a step up from the Federation? Like, let's be honest.
We never see that in Star Trek.
I've never seen them do that.
No, all you got in Star Trek is synthahol.
Yeah. Synthahol, boring synthahol. Anyway, so they end up talking with
Romulan and Eldubran whiskey. So there's a couple things.
That's true. Yeah. So they end up docking into this environment. They go into this room. We got some really cool pan shots here, which was kind of cool.
But they knew right away that they're not where they're supposed
to be. At this point, they're like, why is this a room with no doors? And then the lights go out. And then all of a sudden they're beamed, and the entire ship. Captain Shaw made a reference to pot. Yes, that's
That
true.
came after.
Yeah.
That came after this episode.
That
though.
was after this, though. Yeah, for sure. This has got a good 5 years on that particular one. But anyway, the ship turns into essentially this little tiny beacon, and it turns out that the ship was just a hologram, and it looks like it's some sort of trap. And then Isaac's like, by the way, everybody disappeared.
But again, like that must be some really good hologram because.
Well, they scan it and they think it's solid and everything.
And they thought they were under attack, and they, it didn't make sense.
Well, yeah, this alien species, whose name escapes me right now, the red people. They are very technologically advanced, much more than the Union is. So that's why they're so fooled by all of this.
Yeah. But basically, they're looking at the inner makings of the ship, and she's like, the ship's gone, like it's gone, and they're gone too. And she's like, oh crap. And then this is where she gets a panic attack, and she does the run out of the room like Mercer, because Mercer did the same thing. which I don't remember if anybody else does it throughout the series, but this is something that they could have easily kept going with.
I think they do. You're right. Now that you mention, I think that this gag does continue.
I think this gag does happen at least one other time.
Is it ever Bortus?
I don't.
That'll be the final episode.
I don't even think Bortus has ever run. I don't think he's
with
ever
an egg dropping. With an egg dropping, he'll be running to his quarters.
So she's running to Bortus's room because she's like, I cannot handle this. This is not my thing. I need Bortus. But I guess she literally walks right into him, and he's just sitting there naked as a jailbird there, and he's just, look at him.
That reveal is great.
That reveal is funny. Good. Yeah. And then she's just like, she keeps looking down because she doesn't want to look at him.
Is it not customary to ask for permission before entering?
For one to knock before they enter. Yeah. Or something like that. Yeah. But I love Bortus.
Yeah, and she's like explaining, like, the captain and the first officer are gone. She's like, not my problem.
Yeah, he goes, I got an egg and I'm sitting on it. And I can't leave.
I'm on leave. Leave me alone.
Yeah. At this point, you're kind of on it there. You got to do it yourself. So then she's like, okay, well, fine. And she comes back, and then she looks at the bridge, and she's like, oh shit, I can't handle this. And she runs into I guess this is the ready room, I guess technically. Or Mercer's office, maybe. And then she instantly goes to the replicator and asks for
tequila.
What is it? Yeah.
Chilean tequila.
Chilean tequila. Yes. So she drinks it. And then she starts talking to herself, and she's like, you're not going to throw up. You're not going to throw up. You don't feel like throwing up. And then all of a sudden she's like, she had to run. And then this poor ensign who's going by is like, oh my, he's like hearing her just toss, eh? And he's just like, oh, something's going on. And she's like, actually I must have missed it, but she comes out.
I love this scene. I love what him just looking around. It's very Family Guy, just looking around the corner.
Yeah, he's just kind of peering over, like, what's going on. And this is a guy who, like, we see him one more time in the episode, but like we'll never see him again. Like, he's just some ensign.
But you know what's interesting about this whole chain of command thing is, like, when you, like in Star Trek, if you ever said, okay, you're in command, like, you can't hold people back. Okay, I'm in the seat. There's not aside from Barclay, but there's never, aside from somebody wanting to be in command. That's what they've always been training for.
Yeah, which it's almost the opposite on this show, because there's a couple times where people take over and they're like, I don't want to be in charge of this. Like, this is a shit show. So anyway, Isaac's trying to figure out where they went, essentially, and he notices that there was an energy thing that happened. So he's trying to figure it out. And then these two are bantering about something, but I don't remember what the joke was on this. I should have wrote that down. But
this is where she wants to bring it. He's like, I can remote control the shuttle to come back.
That's
she's
right.
like, yeah, do that remote thing. And
then there's awkward silence. And then he's like, so you want me to do that? Because she doesn't actually tell him. She's like, oh, that's good. That's all she says to him. And
then she wants to bring the probe, like whatever it is, into the shuttle bay, which everyone tells her is a bad idea. Malloy and Isaac specifically.
Yes.
And like
And at this point, the doctor's already kind of shown up to like kind of give a little bit of a supporting role here.
again, she outranks her too. Like she might be a better choice to be in command than
Well,
her.
and that's
Well,
kind of the
actually,
weird
she's
thing.
not. She's not. Isn't right? She's the fourth officer.
She's the fourth officer. Yeah.
She's lieutenant commander. She outranks her.
right. But in the all right, we'll come to this in the fun facts.
true.
We'll talk about it in the fun facts.
All right.
All right.
Adam's got fun facts to cover that. All right. So anyway, they're like, yeah, no, that's a bad idea. And she's like, no, get a transporter lock on that thing and bring it in. So they start bringing it in. We got some cool little external shots that we got to see. And they're about to bring it in, and then all of a sudden it blows up and everybody gets tossed around. Some guy falls off of the spiral staircase, which is probably the reason why most starships don't have spiral staircases. But either way, I still think it's great.
I think they're missing out. It's like the arch on the bridge. Like that's awesome for being knocked over and
or a
all the
slide
action
on,
scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, no, this was kind of cool.
Imagine Worf jumping over that. Come on.
Yeah. We
Well,
saw him
Worf-
jump over the
Worf would jump over just because he thought somebody was on the bridge. Like that's what he would do.
We saw him jump over like that little thing of the tactical station where he'll like just hop over like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
one little piece of wood or whatever.
Yeah, and he pulls out the phaser. Yeah. So, but anyway, and even Bortus gets knocked around, which apparently I got kind of some stills. It was going a little too fast. But Bortus is like, "What the hell's going
What
on?
the hell are you doing up there?
Yeah.
I'm trying to lay on an egg here.
Yeah.
Didn't the egg popped out like underneath him? Like he said, "Oh, thank God it didn't break" or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he ended up getting up and looking at it, and then he was like, "Oh, okay, it's still there." So, but anyway, so she starts looking at. She goes. They basically tell her like, "Oh, okay, well, we have damage. We might have casualties. Blah blah blah." And then she finds out that the shuttle bay is like completely wrecked, and she's like, "Well, I'm going down there." And they're like, "You don't need to go down there. You're supposed to be on the bridge. That's your job." And she's like, "I don't care." And she runs down anyway, which to me was the impression of she didn't want to be on the bridge. Like she didn't want to be a command.
Did
so
she take the
figured-
command test like Troy?
I
I don't know.
Troy is a terrible commander. But anyway, so she looks around and sees all this damage and stuff.
Including that ensign, right? That she, or is that in sickbay where she sees the ensign?
She
from
sees the
earlier?
ensign after in sickbay, which I think we'll see that in a second. But there's significant damage there. I would say you wreck and the worst thing about it is the Orville seems to only have one shuttle bay, so you break it, you're gonna have to fix it before you.
This is only the second mission now, and it's been damaged twice already.
Yeah, the ship's been destroyed. Well, and it's a constant thing in this show. Like, it isn't like we're the Enterprise where it's like, oh, well, we had shields up and we're fine, and nothing.
It's a little bit more like Voyager, and
a
we
lot
got
more like Voyager, where they
Robert
get their
Duncan
ass kicked
McNeil
every
directing
so
the episode.
Yeah,
you
that
know.
might make
Well,
sense.
how about Enterprise, where the ship was just so beaten up at the end?
At the end of the second
True.
season, yeah, it was just destroyed basically.
In that episode, Damage.
That was very fitting. So anyway, this is we're seeing some casualties, and then she comes across the in sickbay. She comes across the ensign that saw her and heard her, throw up earlier, and he's like, "Yeah, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time." Yeah, I would say so. I don't know why he would have been there when he was just on the bridge a minute ago, but whatever.
Small ship.
Yeah, small ship. What can you do? But anyway, so it looks like he's gonna live. But this is really like this is weighed heavily on her. Like at this point, she's like, "Man, people could have died."
And then she might ask the doctor to relieve her of duty.
Yeah, she goes, "Let's talk." And then she's like, "I need you to relieve me of duty. I don't care what you say. You can tell them I'm on drugs. I don't care. I just don't want to be in charge anymore." And she's like, "I can't do that. Like that's not how we do things, So
Like, shouldn't a requisite for command be that you actually are willing to do it?
well, I think the main thing is like she's getting thrusted into a pretty shitty situation to begin with. Like she's lost the two, so it's a lot for a first command. I think.
I don't buy that. I think that like Dave, I mean, like I said before, is like you're in the command structure because you want to be in command.
You think?
You would think,
And
yeah.
I mean, but
But you
this
also have to
show is-
remember in the last episode, they told we've been told that the what are they?
The Salayans?
Salayans. The Salayans get fast tracked. So
True.
she
And
doesn't
she's
have
very-
all the experience that somebody else would have. Because she didn't have to earn the rank, right? Like she already
right.
got the rank ahead of time.
And there was some pretty big foreshadowing when they, what can happen? We're going to be right here. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, of course, which is, famous last words, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, she's like, you got to relieve me. And Claire's not having any of it. She's like, no, you need to do this. Like, this is part of your job. Like, we don't just relieve people for fun, so it's like, you gotta do this. So anyway, and then we flip over to Mercer, and Mercer is waking up, and he wakes up and he's in his apartment back in New York, from a year ago, and Kermit's even there. So, the technology they have to make sure that they understand their habitats is pretty good, I think. But
yeah,
anyway,
they can obviously read their minds incredibly well with their technology.
Yeah, and Kelly, same thing. Kelly's like, how is this possible? Like, did we time travel? And I like the fact that she makes it sound like time travel is not possible in this universe. Like, it's just not. Like,
but we know it is.
We know it is later on, but we don't know it at this point. So,
and Kelly was a science officer before she went into command, right? So
yes,
this would be more her area.
Yeah, this is why, and a lot of people I think forget that watching this, because like, yeah, she has a big science background, so like that's why she's interested in all the stuff that happens, for the most part. So it's kind of interesting that she kind of does this. But they're looking around, they're like, wow, like, this is totally it. This is the Kermit that's on my desk right now. Like, we must have traveled in time or something. And then he's like, well, I'm going to use the pad and see if I can get out of there. Now, the door that he's trying to open is the door that goes outside to where like the shuttle shows up. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm not sure what his plan was there. Like, are you planning on jumping out? Like, what are you doing?
Just wave his arms and get somebody's attention. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. But either way, I guess he just wanted to get out. I do like the fact that he tried to, ram the door. Tries to ram the door, and he just like totally destroys his arm.
He's so not that guy either,
yeah, he's just not that guy, which makes it even funnier. Like, the whole joke just is way better. Like, if Worf did this, you'd be like, all right, well, Worf, that's kind of things.
You'd be like, that's a strong door. But when Mercer does it, you go, door. Well, that's a medium door.
Yeah, like, that's a door that has a little bit of reinforcement, but probably not much.
But what's great? It like in Star Trek, again, they're all so physically fit, and they're all strong. Yeah. What's normal? Like, these guys are just normal people. Like, it just feels like
Yeah, this is a guy who drinks beer at like 9 a.m. Like,
the Germans have been doing it.
The Germans do it. But anyway, I do like that as well. So anyway, we go back, and at this point, Allura is now back on the bridge, and Isaac has said, hey, this was probably a transporter beam.
Which is interesting because, obviously they don't have transporters here in this Orville, or the Union don't have transporters, but these aliens who took Ed and Kelly,
they know that they exist. They just don't have the technology, right? So, because especially in this third season.
Yeah, and does this species like ever come back into play? Like, I don't remember.
Which species?
The people who abducted them, the Zookeeper.
No, I think this is a one-time thing. I don't think we see them past this.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But obviously they're a powerful people with powerful technology. So
they are, and they're also in a sector which the Union has said, no, you're not able to go.
Yeah, don't go anywhere near them.
Don't go anywhere near there. You're going to be screwed.
Yeah.
And then she basically says, we need to get moving, and she calls down to engineering and says, what's the status, and he's like, we're not done yet. This is going to take a while. So she's like, well, we're going, we need to get moving here, blah, blah, blah. So then, we go back to Mercer and Kelly. They're both, checking out the room still. And at this point, it's nighttime for them. So, or at least that's the projection that they have on their wall now. So they've been there for a little while. Kelly's like, I'm going to embrace this. She goes to the replicator, gets some chocolate cake. She's already in her.
She likes her chocolate brownie. She likes her chocolate cake.
She's a chocolate person. She's very much a Troy with it being Troy. She's already way more competent than Troy, so that works out well. But anyway, and then Mercer's got some booze. I don't remember what it was, but
it's like it's like
whiskey or something. Yeah. But he's like, oh, let's trade, and she's like, okay. And this is kind of where we get like a little bit of the camaraderie back with them. They kind of have a little bit of a heart to heart. Kind of like, being here stuck with you, it kind of reminds me of a year ago, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh yeah, good times.
This is a little bit of therapy for the both of them.
Yeah, well, and I think this is important, and this is a much more important scene than I think they wanted to let on to, because we need to get this closure on these guys being enemies, because it's the only way they're gonna work together, right? So like we have to make it so they're not enemies. Like in the last episode, Mercer was bringing up her infidelity like literally every 10 seconds. So now he's kind of accepting her a little bit more, looking her back as a friend again. Even smiling with that creepy smile. But anyway, they're kind of reminiscing, blah, blah, blah. And then we go back to the Orville. And at this point, Isaac has now pinpointed where they went. He's like, oh, they were transported right here. That is the planet so-and-so.
The Caliban are the name of this alien species.
Caliban? Okay. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the planet, though. But
the Caliban system is the
Caliban system. Oh yeah, because I don't think they actually went to a planet. It was just like a starbase.
They do. It's a planet, but
is it a planet? Oh, I thought it was a starbase. Anyway, so then we get a glimpse of an admiral here. I can't remember what his name was, but it doesn't.
That actor I know is that Ron Canada? Is that who that is?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, you know what? Until you mentioned that, I totally forgot about that.
Not from Canada.
Not from Canada, but has the last name.
Yes, I believe he's the one here playing the admiral. He was in a few Next Generation episodes. When we had J.G. Hertzler on for the interview, he had mentioned that they're best friends actually in real life, and that he had beat him for the role of Martok in auditions. Like it was between him and J.G. and J.G. got it.
Yeah, and that is obviously on one of the other channels on this great.
Go back and watch our interview, our first contact.
Maybe we can throw a link in later on for that or something. Very good interview, actually. It was really well done. Anyway, he basically says, no, you are not going anywhere near there. You're coming back. So, spin your ass around and get back to Earth. Because, at this point, we need you back. The two are a lost cause. We're not going to risk it. Let's go back. So Lara's kind of like, really want to do that, but then she kind of went, okay, well, I guess I got to do that. So
the admirals are quite willing to give up captain.
Expendable.
Yeah, like they're like cut them loose. If they're in the Caliban system,
they're already dead. Like, don't worry.
Not
about
worth
it.
it. So it does make you feel like there's a lot of stakes here. There's some danger involved.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But that's what lacked, I think, because again, I don't quite understand why he said that. Well, it didn't seem that difficult.
Well, you got to remember though, this is a superior race. If they cause some shit, like that's going to be a big problem for the Union.
Yeah, like they couldn't survive an actual military conflict with them, because they're just so outgunned.
Yeah,
so they're not going to poke that bear. It feels like that's.
I guess that's really where it comes.
You mean they're not going to go through the wormhole and encroach on someone else's territory?
Correct.
Not today.
Be like, oh, we'll see what happens.
Do you think you're going to stop us from exploring the Gamma Quadrant?
Exactly. Oh, jeez. All right. Anyway, let's get back to this. All right. So anyway, she looks down at Kermit, and she's like, "I know what I have to do." And she's like, "We're going back to Earth." And she
breaks the desk,
and then she destroys his desk, like just boom, destroys it, which obviously shows her strength. So Mercer is now, he's waking up on the couch, and these things are staring at him. Now, I think this is some fantastic makeup. Like they did a great job on these guys.
The Calivans, yeah, they look like demonic.
Great, yeah, especially the master of the zoo. Even like the intricacies on like his face, he's got like crow's feet and stuff and everything. It's great. But basically, he's like, "Why is there red little people staring at me?" Because they are fairly short. And he's like, "What the hell's going on here?" And then I must have missed it, but he went to run into the force field and he ran right into it and threw him back on the whole thing. And then they're like, we're gonna go look at the next exhibit. And then he talks to this like pinhead guy.
Yeah, from Hellraiser.
It looked kind of like the Hellraiser guy, but he really wasn't, because it wasn't pins, it was like spikes,
porcupines
in his head.
Or spikes.
Yeah, he was like a porcupine kind of thing. I don't actually think they name him.
No.
They just talk
No.
about him. And then he says, "Oh well, you should ask the other guy over there because he knows how long we've all been here." And the other guy's like, "Yeah, you're not leaving." Yeah, even that costume's pretty impressive. I'm actually pretty amazed by that. That one not so much, but
I think all these makeups and costumes are fun and different and new.
they
Like,
are,
there's
yeah,
some-
yeah, for sure. And they're basically they go to look up. They look up and they see literally hundreds upon hundreds of pens of various species, all living in these little tiny cubes. I guess is a good way to look at it.
exhibits.
Yeah, and they're like, we're in kind of, you're in a zoo, basically, is what the guy says. Like, you're in a zoo. Like, what do you want?
Calawan Zoo.
Yeah,
Ha
and
ha
then
ha.
they
It's
see
like a
this
horror movie a little bit, It's
yeah,
got
in a
this-
way. Yeah,
And we see the kid, like the little kid who's been,
he
put
was
in the
abducted
zoo.
by from his family. Yeah, and now he's been there, and I'm not totally sure his set design there, but it's I think they borrowed some of that from the Men in Black movie, maybe.
Maybe. Those
but,
chairs, maybe. Yeah.
Well, Fox, right? But anyway, but yeah. So even the I can't complain about any of the aliens in this show so far. Everything's been pretty good. But there's Mercer banging on the wall because apparently, running at it and getting flown apart just wasn't enough. He had to bang on it some more. And Kelly's just like, this is terrible. And then they're like, yeah, well, that guy over there, he's been here for ages. And then
35 years, yeah.
camera pans over and it's this guy, which he's an interesting one.
Right.
But
the Calavans are so insensitive and they just don't care, right? Like, where
yeah,
they're like,
they
"No,
just
we're-"
don't give a flying fuck about this.
Yeah,
Like,
they
we'll
just look
take
so
anybody.
down on these other species because I guess they're intellectually not as advanced and technologically not as advanced.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Eva Spaggio.
Yeah. So
Right.
basically at this point now, Laura's like, checking in to see how repairs have gone. All the people are now reporting that everything's up and operational. And she's like, okay, set it to Earth. And this is where Gordon
Malloy,
has a
yeah.
big problem about it. Because
Yeah.
Gordon's
That's
like,
cool. That's a cold-blooded order.
yeah, it's a cold-blooded order. If Ed was here, he would go get you. All this, right? The typical thing there. But he's
She
really
relieves
mad,
him.
and she basically relieves him of command. She's like, "I'm not putting up with this shit. You're yelling at me.
Go to your room.
Yeah, go to your room." Basically,
Time out.
and then she says to the other guy, I can't remember his name either. Lamar, that's it. Jeez, you're way better at this than I am. Lamar, she's like, okay, set course for Earth. And he's just like, and he's reluctant, but he does it.
Well,
Well, he already saw somebody get kicked off. So I guess at this point, he's like, okay, I guess I'll just do it. And then she basically goes and sees Claire again.
Everyone hates me.
Yeah, everybody hates me. Nobody loves me. Going into the garden, eat worms, yum yum. All right, but anyway, and she's like, well, sometimes you got to make the hard choices. If command says you have to come back, you come back. Like that's the right call, right? And Laura's like, it doesn't feel like the right call to me, but that's what I'm going with because I'm supposed to be in good in command. So anyway, her next stop is in their version of 10 Forward cafeteria, whatever you want to call it. She shows up and she sees some of the crew sitting there. Lamar and Gordon are there, and some other crewmates that we don't know who they're. But basically, she goes up to the bar. She's like, "Give me a double of what is it?
Chilean whiskey.
Chilean.
Tequila.
There you go. I never get these names right. The Chilean tequila. So she ends up having a 2-shotter. She throws that down, but this time she doesn't throw up, which I'm pretty impressed about. She goes and says, "Can I sit down?" And Malloy's like, "Yeah, I guess, sir." Whatever. He's giving her a hard time, kind of thing. And she's like, "What do you want me to do? Like, they told me I had to do this." And he's like, "Well, sometimes you got to go against the grain. Blah blah blah." And she finally comes around and says, "You know what? Let's go get him." And everybody's like, "Yeah, let's go get him." Blah blah blah. It's like, okay.
I don't know. I felt like the move here was actually, maybe take a shuttle and go rescue them sort of separately from the whole ship, or
Well, that would make more sense for sure. And I don't think the ship has the ability to separate like the Enterprise does.
No, I don't think so. But that's where I kind of thought. That's what I thought Claire's little speech to her was going to lead her. Like, okay, well,
that's
you
what
can
I thought. Yeah,
you can risk yourself, but you can't put the whole crew in
but
risk.
don't put the
'cause
whole crew at risk. But then she ends up putting the whole crew at risk anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but they're on board.
But
they're
everybody's
all
on
for
board
it.
at this point. And then they start running. They're all running to their posts now.
How fast can you go? As fast as you want, sir. You're the
Yeah.
captain.
You're the
So
captain. Yeah.
here we go.
So there's a lot of little one-liners.
Maybe
in
we'll
there.
start a war. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So anyway, they warp out, they come back, they warp back in, and now they're in that territory. And she's like, okay, well, we got to do this. We're here now. We've got to do this. Let's get this done, kind of thing.
Oh, and I like how the part here with the Kalon with Isaac, where she's like, as you know, the Kalon are more technologically advanced, and he's like, and intellectually as well,
And intellectually as well. He has to point that out.
Oh, it's so good. I think
He's so subtle.
Some of his like jokes and his lines are so funny to me. Like
I think some of the best lines come from him
the timing
and Bortus. I think those are the two, and they're both very, cold, dry delivery, which is great.
Very matter of fact, which I always enjoy. Against some of these more zany characters.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, okay. So Isaac has figured out how to use the hologram to make his ship look like something else. So Lara's like, okay, make it happen. So they turn it into a ship that looks like one of theirs, so they can kind of get in there. Oh, sorry,
not so technologically advanced. They scan it and they don't even notice.
Yeah, they don't even notice. That's how good their technology is, though. They fool themselves.
Yeah,
so
idiots.
Yeah. But anyway, so they fly in through this like massive like entourage of ships, and one ship starts really scanning them like hard. But then he's like, that can't be a hologram. That must be a real ship.
Oldest trick in the book: you just fly casual.
Casual.
You don't fly nervous. If you fly nervous, they'll know.
They'll know. Yeah, they'll know for sure. And at this point, you kind of get the impression that Claire is starting to become kind of proud of her,
And Claire gets put in command here too, though.
Yeah, and then Alara's like, "Okay, I'm leaving. You're in command now."
Tag you're it.
Like,
yeah.
And right before that scene ends, she's like, "Oh God," she doesn't want it either. Like nobody wants command. So then at this point we go to breakfast at the zoo, I guess. Kelly's playing solitaire while eating cereal.
Frankenberry, to be more specific.
I love that it took one night for them to just start getting on each other's nerves.
Yeah, and now Mercer's drinking at 9 a.m.
As the Germans do it.
I love that. Yeah. That screenshot. It's great. That really just sums it
and
all
one
up
of my
right
favorite there. One of my favorite lines. You're not German. Yeah, well, you're not Frankenberry.
Yeah, you're not Frankenberry. Because she's eating Frankenberry cereal. Yeah. But neither one of them are too happy with each other at this point. They're kind of pissed off at each other. And then Alara shows up. She's like, "Hi." And they're like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "It's so great to see you." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go talk to the big guy upstairs, blah, blah, blah." Isaac's like, "Well, there's got to be a head like zookeeper or something. We'll go talk to him." And she's like, "Okay."
Yeah, and this is only possible because they have Isaac, and we find out these Calavons respect the Kalon.
They respect the Kalon, but they don't respect the other races. So like they won't even talk to her. He has to be the one. And there's even a scene where like later he's like, "This is my pet Alarin," and she's like, "Woof," or Slayn. Sorry, Slayn.
This zookeeper guy, I had to look him up. He's not an actor I really know, JD Cullum, but he's great in this role. He is
very good. Yeah, I liked him.
Comes through. His performance is really
comes through great. I love the facial expressions as well. The fact that their makeup follows it, which is even better. But Isaac's like, "I would like to talk to you about this." Blah 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 blah.
It's good. Like their dialogue is good. Where and Isaac just leans into the fact that he's like, "Yeah, these dumb humans, or
these stupid humans. They have this disease
or whatever
that could affect all of your animals in your all the species in here." And he's like, "Oh no!" And he's like, "Okay, well, we'll start our quarantine protocol." And then quarantine protocol turns into basically death. And she's like, "Ah!" And then Mercer's just sitting there, and then all of a sudden he's like, "What's the light?"
Oh, these laser beams. Yeah.
All these laser beams.
Did some of the other zoo pets get killed in this process? Like, everyone.
I don't think so. I think this was just solely in their room.
Just in their pod?
Oh, there's a dog. Whose dog's that? That must be Adam's.
Adam's.
Yeah, well, it could have been mine, I guess. But anyway, so they see these lights, and it turns out that they literally slice everything.
Does it
And
remind you of that like that fight on Next Generation last night between Tasha and what's in Yarina with the green lasers?
it's already better, which isn't hard. Let's be honest.
What about that other Next Gen episode where they had the scan going on, Varian scan?
Oh, yeah.
the Barian
Yeah.
Suite.
Oh,
yeah.
Starship Mine. I love that episode.
It's a good
That's a
one.
good episode.
That's one of my favorite ones. Yeah, with Picard in his saddle. But yeah. So anyway, they're slowly getting pressed into the end of the room, and he's like, "Wow, we're just gonna kill him," and he's
They won't
like,
feel a thing. Don't
Won't
worry
feel a
about
thing.
it.
and Isaac at this point is like, can you at least talk to my?
Can you humor me and let my Salean pet talk to you? And he's like,
Yeah.
you want me to talk to your
You
pet?
want me to talk to her or your pet?
Her? You want me to have a conversation with her?
And
You
she
know.
basically says along the lines of, we can give you something better, basically, and all that. And she basically says, yeah, we can give you something better that would, draw more attention and blah, blah, blah than these guys. Like, let's just take them, kind of thing. And he's like, okay, I'm interested. Let's hear it. And at this point, the lasers are getting really close and then they turn off and they're both like, and she's like, oh boy. And he's like, wow, that was bad.
Oh, no, but the thing he says, he's like, I'm going to the bathroom to read.
Oh yeah, I'm going to the
and she-
bathroom to
Oh,
read.
yeah.
She's like,
She's
what
like,
was
"What?"
that? And he's like, well, that was the last thing Elvis said.
That was Elvis's last words.
It's the only thing I could think of.
I kind
And
of
she's
enjoyed
just
that.
like, oh boy, yeah. There's so many good one-liners. And then at this point, we now see they're back. They're all back on the bridge. And actually, are they in the bridge or are they in the mess hall thing?
They're in the mess hall.
Oh, they're in mess hall. But basically, it's an award ceremony, and they're going to give Alara the award for command or something like that.
It's like the Medal of Honor, their version of it.
Their version, yeah.
And
So-
then meanwhile, the admiral is going to, give her a court martial.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, this follows the same Star Trek logic that if you disobey orders but you get a good result, then no one cares.
Then it's okay. Yeah, they'll just ignore it. But
That's
anyway,
basically what the doctor says. She says, you better be right or your career is over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If this goes bad, then you're screwed. But
Yeah,
if
you're
you
really
if
screwed,
you
yeah.
pull it off, then they'll probably promote you. So,
which the irony is she ends up leaving anyway. But
We
want
justice.
But anyway, so everybody's happy in the crowd. She gets a handshake, she gets the smile. Everybody's really happy for her, and then they start drinking because that leads to the good things in the show. So they're all drinking, and she's like, and then Kelly's like, don't worry about the admiral. Me and Ed will take care of that. You'll be fine.
yeah, we'll cover for you. Yeah, or they'll smooth that over. So we'll talk to Ron Canada. We'll tell him.
We'll talk to Ron Canada.
We'll just tell him he should have been Martok, and then he'll say fine. And I guess
I'll
we
do
can
the
put
end
it
of
that
it,
way.
But it turns out that they also rescued the kid as well. That was part of the deal. So they're going to return the kid back to her home, I guess. And then the chief, I can't even remember what he says. What does he say? He says,
I don't remember actually.
yeah, I don't either. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't think it was anything that impressive. Anyway.
Well, what did you? I think he asked, "What did you trade, or what did you give them?"
Oh, what did you? Yes, that's right. He goes, well, what did you give them to get the 3 people back? And then we see it, here's the clip back at the zoo. And now they have television screens hooked up, and we see reality TV shows being played, and they're engaged in this. They absolutely
Like Desperate Housewives or something.
Yeah, Desperate Housewives is one of
Yeah.
them. I think Jersey Shore is one of them that you see in the background. And
All
then he's
Kevin's
going through the
favorites.
list. Yeah, he's going through
Some
the
of them,
list,
yeah.
and there's all these, all these different reality shows that basically they've given to these people.
But only the trash ones. Where's Survivor? Where's Big Brother?
they probably don't exist in this universe.
No.
Well,
Probably for good reason.
But Star Wars, they made a
They
Star
probably
Wars
would have
reference.
been on season 800 by now for Survivor.
Because earlier Claire says I'll be your Obi-Wan, and
Yes,
Alara doesn't know
Star
what that
Wars
is.
does exist in this universe.
And it's the Muppets, I guess, and
Yep. Basically,
it'd be,
Disney franchises.
it'd be interesting to me if even Star Trek existed in this world, and that they based a little bit of their stuff off Star Trek, which but I don't think they're going there.
Be a little too meta for this show.
Yeah, maybe.
Might be, yeah. Norman says,
Glad it wasn't
The Apprentice.
Yeah,
I think we all
actually,
agree
that
with
would
that.
be funny,
that'd be
Yeah.
funny. Yeah,
especially today.
And then our last scene, which is kind of our teaser for next week's episode, is we see Bortus, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh,
Clyden, we are hatching.
we are hatching." Come on.
I think we didn't see Clyden before this either, right? This is like Clyden's
this
introduction.
is the first time you see Clyden, yeah. And basically we see the egg. They're both looking at it, and then we start seeing it crack, and then their eyes open up. And then you see the just terror on their faces, and both of them are like, "It's a female.
This is impossible.
This is impossible." And that's the end of the episode. So, which next week's episode covers that.
About a girl, right?
But yeah, About a Girl is the name of the episode. Yeah, it's already actually queued. You don't have to tell us, Norman. I at least know that. Come on.
He knows.
He knows that I'm just terrible at this. But anyway, oops.
Oh.
But anyway, that's it. So what were our thoughts, guys? How did we feel about this episode? I think it was just as solid as the first one.
It's a completely good episode. I think it's not the best one of the show, but it's
there's much better episodes. But...
It's completely fine. I think that they solved the problem a little too easily, but hey, it's all gonna wrap up in an hour. So
they did that quick Enterprise wrap up thing. Did we lose somebody's mic? Oh, there we go. Everybody there still?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe not Adam.
I'm here.
Adam? Oh, okay. We're good. Somebody disconnected and reconnected. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Dave. I think it's a solid episode. I wouldn't say it's the best episode of the series. It's not. But it's a solid episode. I don't have a problem with it. But you know what, guys? You know what makes the episode even more fun?
What's that?
The deep dive with fun facts. And
fun
who
facts.
has our fun facteer himself? Adam Woodward.
All right, let's go, guys. So I just had a power outage, so I'm on battery now. Okay.
Maybe that's what happened.
That's what we heard.
Yeah. The holographic ship that Captain Mercer is called to assist is referred to as the Blériot. Following other aviation themed clues, this is probably a nod to Louis Blériot, the French inventor and aviator who was the first to cross the English Channel in his monoplane in 1909.
That I didn't know.
Very good.
That's a fun fact and learning fact today.
Well, and the Orville's named after the brother that didn't get too famous, the Orville brothers, not the Wright brothers.
Yeah. The plane was called the Kitty Hawk, right? Or was it? I can't remember. I need to look that up. Okay,
no, I think the Kitty Hawk was the
fake ship they run into.
No, I'm
the
talking
Barry.
about.
No, he's just talking about the one that went over.
No, I'm talking about the plane that the Orville and Wilbur invented. It was called the Kitty Hawk, I thought, or was it
the
Kitty
Wright
Hawk?
brothers?
I thought Kitty Hawk was a place.
I don't know. Look that up, will you? Okay.
The Wright
so
brothers
director.
plane.
We're gonna have to
The Wright
give
Flyer.
the Wright Flyer. There you go. I think the Kitty Hawk was the one that the Millionaire made. The big one.
No,
You're wrong.
you're talking about Howard
Hughes.
Howard Hughes.
Yeah, Hughes. I don't know.
Okay,
Anyway,
let's move on. All right,
we're getting railed here, guys. Like, and not in a good way.
as you said, Robert Duncan McNeil played Tom Paris in Star Trek Voyager and directed this episode.
So you don't go crazy, Adam. The Wright Flyer was also known as the Kitty Hawk.
Oh,
Or
There we
Flyer
go.
One.
Flyer.
yeah,
one
I saw
there.
that down in the Outer
There you
Banks,
go.
North
were right.
Carolina. Okay, good.
How did we ever doubt the fun factician? I don't know.
All right.
Shouldn't
So the chain of command of the Orville was established down to the fourth officer. Ed Mercer is the captain. Kelly Grayson is the first officer. Bortus is the second officer. Alaire is the third, and Claire Finn is the fourth. This ties the Orville with Star Trek Next Generation and its establishment of the chain of command on a similarly themed show. Next Generation went Picard, Riker, Data, Worf, and LaForge. No other Star Trek.
Worf was lieutenant and Geordi's lieutenant commander. They still put Worf ahead. Okay.
Yeah. No other Star Trek show established the chain of command that far down without many not going beyond the position of the first and second officer. Uniquely to the Orville, neither the first nor the second officers have any other role on the ship beyond command. While in Star Trek, only the captain and sometimes the first officer without other duties. Spock and T'Pol, for example, had both served as science officer on their respective enterprises in addition to the role of second in command. So there you go. the plot is similar to the original series. People are like all over. Actually, that's not an original series, but The Cage and The Day at the Zoo.
The Cage is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
First appearance of Captain Mercer's plush Kermit the Frog doll on his office desk. In Old Wounds, you remember last week he had a figurine of Kermit. I guess it wasn't big enough, so they had to make it bigger.
They went to a bigger thing. Yeah.
I noticed it.
Yeah. Oh, you did. You called it out last week.
Of course you did. You called it out. Yeah.
Yep. Ron Canada, who plays Admiral Tucker, appeared in the Masterpiece Society in 1992 Next Gen episode. This episode takes place over 3 weeks, as evidenced by Boris' egg going from newly laid to fully hatched. Remember, you talked about a 3-week gestation period.
So is that how long they were in the zoo for? Was like a good chunk of that? Like,
I guess so.
A couple days.
They didn't change their clothes. They changed their clothes when they got there because they didn't have their it's like, I don't know.
I felt like it was a couple days, but I guess it has to be at least 3 weeks, right? Because that's with the.
Yep.
Well, we don't actually get a timeline because we just see Mercer now drinking and Kelly being irritated with him. So,
but we
know that didn't happen over one day.
But the opening scene with Bordis asking for the leave and then the egg hatches at the end, that has to be 3 weeks between those things.
Of course. Yeah. 21 days. Yeah.
But when she was eating in that room, I mean, it was annoying me, like the way she.
She was crunching hard. Yeah.
Larry Joe Campbell, who plays Steve Newton, the chief engineer on the Orville, in Old Wounds, Isaac stated that he was both the science and engineering officer. While it was not clearly stated where there was a I can't say the word, a split between Isaac's duties, whether his role of the ship was retconned once the Orville went into series, and actions and attitudes of the characters in the subsequent episodes. So I like the fact that I like that guy, Steve Newton. I wish he would have stayed.
He's still in the show. He's not in the show very often because
who are you talking about?
The engineer,
chief engineer.
Oh, he retires. He retires,
and then that's when
when Lamar takes his
Lamar
job.
Takes it. Yeah.
All right. Captain Mercer states one of his heroes is Kermit the Frog. He even has we already said that. Okay. The character named Ensign Parker is likely a reference to Tim Conway's character in McHale's Navy.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
McHale's Navy. That's an old TV show.
What a reference, I guess.
I don't know whether Seth MacFarlane likes
TV references and Seth MacFarlane are pretty much hand in hand. So
yeah. Captain Mercer quotes Elvis Presley's final words when expecting to die in the replica of his New York apartment. This is likely a nod to James Cawley, who was an Elvis Presley impersonator and also plays Captain Kirk in the Star Trek New Voyages fan film series.
It's not canon, so
how do they know that? Like that it's likely a nod to him. Like,
well, I'm just reading what
I think likely is the key word here. Likely, probably.
I think that they're taking a leap that Seth MacFarlane has this broad, popular culture.
But you also have to look at the fact that this is a guy who, over the last 25 years with Family Guy, has referenced tons of media.
Everything.
Yeah. So for him to do that, not unheard of. And the fact that he has written these episodes would also lead me to believe that.
I feel like James Cawley wrote that fun fact for himself.
It's possible. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he did. After Lara goes to Dr. Finn for advice, she says, "I'll be your Obi-Wan." Obi-Wan Kenobi mentioned mentored Anakin, Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars films, which Seth MacFarlane often parodies in his cartoons along with Star Trek.
Yeah, he did.
I wish they would throw a line like that sometimes in like I'll be your whatever, some like alien reference that we're not going to get, and then they go never mind, and then I feel like we always get it from the human perspective because
well,
we're humans, but
the main cast is human, so
yeah,
that makes sense.
Introduces the full opening title. This episode introduces the full opening titles to the series. Old Wounds lacked the title sequence, displaying only a title card with a cast credited over the action in the next scenes.
First time you got to see the intro.
Yep. And this was actually supposed to be the 4th episode in the series. It was moved up because it tested well with audiences.
Oh, okay.
I wonder what the original second episode was supposed to be.
Maybe the next one.
Well, it couldn't be because this one ends
True.
with the thing for the next one. So
Yeah. Well, I
I'm
guess
guessing they probably just bumped one.
maybe they swapped the second and fourth. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
The phrase Calivian Zoo, or Calivian Zoo, is reference to the British rock band Babylon Zoo, whose single Spaceman gained popularity after being featured in 1995 advert for Levi's jeans. So
I actually know that song. Surprisingly.
okay,
I got a couple of facts.
yeah, go ahead.
Details discovered by Dave coming at you. Did you know that the two Caliban spectators in the zoo are in fact cameos by Tori Belleci and Carrie Byron from the show Mythbusters?
Oh, really?
Didn't know that.
They're not credited for it, but they are there. It is very rare for the actors to deviate from the show's script, but Scott Grimes, who plays Gordon Malone, says his line, "You suck, sir." That was improvised. And
It felt improvised.
it says here that Ed and Kelly spend 2 days and a night in the zoo.
Okay.
The other thing, too, is Ed recalls a bad experience with marijuana while at the opera. While he was convinced he would become paralyzed if he stayed
Oh, we didn't
seated
even
for longer
talk
than
about
2
that.
minutes.
That's a great scene.
An extremely similar experience happened to Seth MacFarlane, which is why he no longer uses it. He said, "One of the last times I was stoned, I was convinced that I would die unless I kept moving my body. So I sat there baked, waving my arms around like a crazy person."
Can't say I haven't been there before. All right.
That's the extent of my my details.
Yeah,
here.
we didn't even talk about that scene where they're talking about how the last time he got high with they went on like a double date to like the opera or something.
Yeah.
And then he ended up like hitting the woman that was in the other couple.
Right. I hated them. I thought you hated.
Yeah, and it turns out that neither one of them liked them, but neither one of them clued into that.
We got a question before we get to ratings here. Question: I know later it is, but does season 1 of the Orville have more Star Trek writers and past actors than Discovery season 1? I would. Yes, I think so.
I think so too.
I would say that that's pretty
I feel
pretty
comfortable
legit.
saying so that because all they really have in is Frakes in Discovery, right? Like he's the only writer that comes back, or director, I guess. All right, but with that said, Jody,
there's a lot of Star Trek alumni in this series.
It's kind of. I don't remember Discovery didn't have the cameos that we see in this one for sure. It seems like everybody wanted to be on this show.
Oh yeah,
except for Daniels, maybe. But
all right, well, let's get to the ratings. Who's up first?
Oh, I'll go first. I don't think it's as strong as the premiere episode, but I think it's still very solid. I'm gonna give it an 8.
All right, Adam.
I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
7.5 from Adam. Yeah, I feel I'm about a 7.5. It's pretty good.
And I'll go 8.
8 from Kevin.
Murphy, who didn't show up, who said he was going to.
Said he was coming, didn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're averaging a 7.8 from the comments. Norman's saying 8 out of 10. Sam's saying 8 out of 10. Emmanuel's saying 7.5. So I feel like we're all pretty much.
I think we're all on the same page here. Yeah.
We're like, it's good. It didn't, it's not the greatest episode. But
it's not like fantastic, but it's a solid episode.
For me, the best scene was with the parents. I love that scene.
The parent scene was pretty good.
Yeah, I wanted more of them in the episode, so that might have brought me up if it had been them throughout it all.
I'm pretty sure we do see them again, but I can't remember when. So,
well, we'll find out.
Either way.
Okay, and the next episode is about a girl, Jody.
About a Girl is what it's called, which is obviously the continued storyline of Bortus. So basically they hatched a girl, and that is just not something that Bortus is happy with.
Clyden, I think,
Clyden's even worse. Yeah. So
and apparently Mocklins are only born every 75 years, so it's a pretty big deal that even one of them is born.
And it's even less likely to have a female. So
well, we'll find out more about that. But
then,
the episode. Well, I remember it being very good.
It jumps into a lot of social things such as conversion surgery and stuff like that. So it's an interesting episode.
All kinds.
Even though it happened, that was 2017. So this happened. around
7
the
years ago.
time when that topic started getting heated. So, and it's still heated. So, yeah,
I'd
it's still
say
relevant.
it's still very much in the cultural
Very
conversation.
relevant still. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for us, unless anybody else has to say anything. But you know what, Dave?
What's that?
You know what? We have fun adventures here on this channel. But you know
Do
what?
we ever?
There's other things. There's other things.
We have a great
people
team
fun
here.
with.
Live long and podcast.
I'm still too big in that picture, by the way.
Come on,
Dude, I look like I'm a fucking Hulk. Like,
what's wrong with that? You Hulk
and
smash.
Adam's head is way too big. Go back
Adam's
to that for a second. Look at his head. Oh my
Big
god. And my
Big
head too.
They're
Dave's head's too
cartoons.
small.
They're cartoons.
This is
All right.
incredible. All right. Anyway. Doesn't matter.
My eyeballs are also not this big, but hey, it's, how it goes. So
Well, I don't know. I've seen you under the influence, so
that's true.
sometimes they are.
But we got a
Anyway.
great team here. We got our reviews, of course. Next Generation still going on right now. We just did one last night. Every Tuesday, check that out. We just wrapped up Star Trek Discovery's 5th season and all those episodes. So if you want to know what we said about Star Trek Discovery, you can go find out. Of course, here we're doing the Orville. We got the Star Trek Prodigy starting up in July for the new season. We're going to be covering that. And of course, the other stuff. I think we have a Debate 9 coming up here on our science division. We also have great Class L probe discussions and trivias and things like that. Of course,
Interviews with people from Star Trek, even.
JG Hertzler, go and see the interview. All
Very
kinds
good
of
interview.
videos.
Yeah, very insightful.
And of course, all of our other great things here on the United Federation of Podcasts, which we'll play a little commercial for you to end the show. But yeah, lots of
All
great
right.
going on.
All right. Well, that being said, gentlemen, any final words before Dave decides to use a sound clip? Maybe.
I'm going to the bathroom to read.
Oh, you're going to the bathroom to read. Okay, that makes sense.
I don't
Good
like
doing,
that,
Dave.
Dave.
That's
Don't leave us like that, Dave. That's not nice.
I like it.
No, that was solid.
That was
a
solid.
callback to the episode. Good job, Dave. Good job.
Thank you, Kevin.
Don't die then, please.
I don't go
All
to
right.
read to the bathroom though. I usually go to play a video game. All right.
All right.
With
Thanks.
that being said, live long and podcast.
Have a great night, everyone.
All right. Good night.
You gonna play the video?
No, I thought you were, but that's.
Oh,
fine.
I'm playing it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm stupid. I don't know.
Sure. Bye.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.